News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. And there's your closing bell for this Thursday on Wall Street. On a day where U.S.-China trade tensions escalated, it caused a plunge in stocks, the dollar, oil. Investors are worried about the impact on corporate earnings and growth. And we bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 down 189 points. That's about 3.4% lower. NASDAQ is down 738 points or 4.3%. And the Dow losing 2.5%. That's 1,014 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.4%, the 2-year yield at 3.84%. We'll get back to the tariffs and the markets in just a minute, but first, this just crossing the Bloomberg terminal. A helicopter carrying at least 4 people has crashed into the Hudson River. Sources tell Bloomberg there's been at least 1 fatality, while 2 people have been rescued and taken to a local hospital. As we learn more about this, we will bring it right to you. Okay, here's what rattled the markets today. President Trump has levied tariffs on Chinese imports that are now at least 145%, escalating trade tensions with China. Now, during today's cabinet meeting, Trump told reporters there will be problems caused by these higher tariffs, but he indicated they'd be temporary.
We think we're in very good shape. We think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Trump says there will not be runaway inflation caused by that 145% tariff placed on goods from China. Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio thinks that a recession is likely. He says the world needs the Chinese to be consumers.
If you were to have that foreign exchange increase, then you would also have naturally Chinese doing an increase in monetary and fiscal policies to raise demand.
Bridgewater Associates founder Ray Dalio spoke with Bloomberg's Francine Lacroix. Underlying U.S. inflation cooled broadly in March. That indicated some relief for consumers. Chief economist Torsten Slok at Apollo Management says that's good news for the Fed, but it's backward looking.
Obviously, we still have tariffs in the pipeline, and what's left on the tariff front could still add as much as 1 percentage point to inflation over the next 12 months.
Chief economist Torsten Slok at Apollo Management. And we're hearing now from some monetary policymakers. Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee calls tariffs a stagflationary shock to the economy.
Prices are going up while jobs are being lost and growth is coming down. And there is not a generic playbook for how the central bank should respond to a stagflationary shock.
Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee speaking to the Economic Club of New York. Kansas City Fed President Jeff Schmidt is worried about inflation expectations rising and is not fully convinced that tariff-related inflation will be temporary. Dallas Fed President Lori Logan warns that tariff-induced inflation must not become permanent. She also is concerned about inflation expectations rising for consumers. U.S. Federal Reserve Governor Michelle Bowman faced scrutiny at a Senate Banking Committee hearing on her nomination to serve as vice chair for supervision. Senator Elizabeth Warren quizzed Bowman about the impact that tariffs could have on the financial system.
As we were watching and waiting to see how the path for these policies continues to evolve, we'll understand what the economic effects.
So are you saying you don't know?
Well, I think it's unclear at this point.
Bowman told senators it's important the Fed maintain its independence on monetary policy. Swiss pharmaceutical giant Novartis says it will invest $23 billion in the U.S. over the next 5 years to ensure all of its key drugs for Americans are made in the United States. President Trump has said that he will impose tariffs on global drug makers. House Republicans have passed a budget plan. Bloomberg Intelligence senior policy analyst Nathan Dean.
This is a big win for Speaker Mike Johnson. Essentially what this does is this allows Republicans to move forward and begin the specific negotiations on how they're going to extend the Trump-era tax cuts, and then subsequently what are they going to cut to try and offset some of that expansion.
The budget outlines a package to cut taxes by up to $5.3 trillion over a decade and raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion in exchange for $4 billion in spending cuts. A passenger jet carrying at least 2 members of Congress was clipped by another commercial plane on the ground at Reagan National Airport. Nobody was hurt. It did cause some damage to the winglets on both planes. New York lawmakers Republican Nick LaLota and Democrat Grace Ming were on one of those planes. This comes after a deadly deadly mid-air collision between a U.S. military helicopter and a regional passenger jet near Reagan Airport back in January. Round 1 of the Masters underway at Augusta National, and at last check, Justin Rose sits atop the leaderboard. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.